This is The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Whether you're a seasoned real estate expert, a first-time home buyer, or if you're simply passionate about hearing small business stories, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we dive deep into the world of real estate and beyond.
Well, welcome to episode 57 of The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. I am your host, Janine Igliane, with my co-host, Ryan Hatcher.
What's up, guys?
And our guest today is Jeremy, Vice President, right? Did
Yes.
I get that right? Of
Yes, you
DR
did.
Horton Homes. We're so excited to have you. So thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This will be fun because we're going to be able to give us kind of an inside look at the new home build process and maybe talk to us about your product. But we like to start at the beginning, and we want to know about you. So tell us about yourself, where you grew up, and how you got in this business.
Yeah, great question. Thanks for asking. I've been in new home sales for a little over 20 years. Got into it right out of college. Grew up in Tempe, went to Corona del Sol High School,
wow. Nice.
Went to ASU. And when I was in college,
What did you study at ASU?
business management,
Okay.
mostly that, a little bit of partying, if
Yeah.
probably the reverse is true. But yeah, one day I went down to pay my rent in college, and I had just come from giving a presentation. I was dressed up, and they were having a job fair, and they said, I said, hey, what kind of jobs are you guys hiring for? And they said, well, we're hiring for maintenance and leasing. And I said, I could probably lease apartments. I could do that.
Yeah.
And ended up getting a job leasing apartments, did that part-time. And then what I didn't realize was what my dad actually did for a living when he was in home building. And when I graduated from college, he said, hey, why don't you come over to the house one night and we'll talk about what you're going to do next. And I said, okay. So I went over there and, kind of a funny story. I walk in and he goes, hey, so the thing I really want to know is, can you pass a drug test? Like, yeah, well, why do you ask? He goes, well, I think you do a really great job selling for our company. You've been selling apartments for a while. Do you think I think you should come sell new homes.
This is your dad?
This is my dad.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, does it pay pretty well? He said, yeah, I think you do all right.
Yeah.
So I went in for an interview, got a job with, the sales manager offered me a job at the time, and I've never looked back. So,
I love
So
that.
what was your dad's role with the company?
so he was the land division president. So his role was to really go out and identify pieces of land to buy. And then we'd buy them, develop them, and then turn them over to the salespeople to sell a couple years later.
That's so cool.
And you didn't really know what he did at the time, right?
I knew he built houses.
Yeah.
That was it. Never
Yeah.
asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
He'd drive us around to job sites on Saturday and Sunday mornings
Right.
looking at them, but I never asked any questions. And,
Yeah.
then I got a sneak peek into really everything that he did on a daily basis. So it's kind of cool. We got to work together for a couple of years.
Yeah, we tend to care more about what our dads do when we're in college or as an adult, I think.
Yeah,
Not
for
so much
sure.
in high school.
Yeah.
I love that he saw that in you too. I relate to that in that my dad's been a realtor my whole life, and he was the one that was like kind of pushing and nudging, I'll say, Janine, you should get into real estate. And he saw that. So I love that. I want my kids to listen to this episode because I try to speak into my oldest, like, you should think about this path or this path, and they should listen to us. Maybe we know what we're talking about as parents.
Yeah, it's super cool. I try to get my daughter into it.
Yeah.
She's really cute at the dinner table. She listens to, the conversations I'm having with my wife. And one day we were out walking some new homes, and she was with us. She's 9 or 10 years old. And we walk in, and the sales guy, and we didn't know the sales guy at the time, and he looks at my daughters. We walk in. He's like, will you please tell your parents to buy a house from me? And the guy was really charming. He was really funny. Really not like not your typical sales guy.
Yeah.
And so as we're walking out of the models, my daughter turns to us and she goes, Daddy, I can tell you like him because he asked for the sale already.
Oh, I
Oh,
love
that's
it.
awesome.
So she was already, I
She was
love
how
that.
old?
She was 9 years old, so
Wow.
she was picking up on that fact. As a
Yes.
sales leader,
Yes.
I'm always talking to the sales team about, hey, if you don't ask for something, you may or may not get it. But if you
100%.
do ask, there's a higher likelihood.
I think that is, we could just park there for just a minute because I think that is a huge business lesson for anybody listening, is the power in simply asking for the sale. And so many people, I don't know if it's they get nervous, they forget, they worry about rejection, whatever it is. But on the flip side, for that potential buyer, they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know that they need to tell you that they're interested or thinking about buying. They need to be kind of led in that process. And simply asking for it can be so huge in helping that person answer that question. How many times we'll sit at the dinner table with a couple and we'll talk to them about selling their house, and they're nodding their head, yes, yes, yes. And then you go to ask, okay, are you ready to get started? And they're like, are we ready? Yeah, I guess we are ready, right? Like they need to have that. Yeah. They need to be led in that way. And there's just so much power in that.
Yeah, there's a ton of power in it. I'll tell you a story about a really great salesperson that I met. So down in the downturn of the market, I ended up working in a call center. In between home builders. It was a tough market. Had to figure out a way to make ends meet. And I worked there for a couple months, got promoted to be a sales manager for the first time. And my boss sits me down. He says, hey, we have this person who is on the sales team. She just transferred over from customer service and she's not quite making it. I don't know that she's going to be a good fit on the team. He's like, we should probably look at making a change. So I said, okay, let me listen to her calls. In a call center, everything's recorded.
Right.
And so I'm listening to her call, and her call is absolutely perfect. And I listened to 3 or 4 of them. Mm-hmm. Everything's spot on. She's doing everything by the book. The customer's saying yes, 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 all those little affirmations along the way. And she gets to the part where you're supposed to ask for the sale, and she doesn't. And on an average, the people that were selling our product would sell in the mid 60s every month, and she was in the 30s. So I bring her in and I say, hey, your calls are really, really good. And she says, hey, if you're going to fire me for bad performance, just do it now.
Oh my goodness.
I said, no, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I said, all you need to do is just do one thing: ask for the sale. And if you ask for the sale, I promise you your numbers will improve. And she goes, well, I don't know that I want to do that. Would you just put me back in customer service? I said, all right, I'll make you a deal. If you ask for the sale on every single call for the next month and your numbers don't drastically improve, I will put you back in customer service, no questions asked. But you have to ask every single time.
Yeah.
So every time she'd get to the point where it was time for her to ask for the sale, she'd perk up, she'd say it a little loud, hey, would you like to go ahead and schedule delivery? And just so that I would hear her, so that she knew. And at the end of the month, not only did she improve her sales, she rented over 100 storage containers. That's what we were selling, was storage containers. Mm-hmm. Wow. She was the #1 person in the call center that month. She went on to be the #1 salesperson of the year and got a $10,000 stock prize at the end of the year. So all that from just asking for the sale. She had to just change one thing.
That's
so
amazing.
You talk about asking for the sale.
Right?
It's the #1 most important thing in sales.
Oh, totally.
In my previous career, I used to help people prepare for interviews, and I knew an upper leader that he would not hire you if you didn't ask for the job at the end of the interview. He would not hire you, period. So it's the same thing. You got to ask for it, right? That's cool.
Yeah, you have to ask. And you might get a deal even if you don't ask.
Yeah.
But if you ask every single time, you're going to exponentially increase your productivity.
I have a similar story. A friend of mine, so our business is built around, we call it geographic farming. So we're hyper local in our neighborhoods that we serve. We really go deep with them. We're really into giving back and serving. But a big part of building that in the way that I started, the way that Ryan started, is just simple door knocking. Okay, so going door to door and knocking. And it really, really helped. And our script is very, very simple, very easy. Anyways, I was talking to a realtor friend of mine, and she was wanting to do the same thing. So she's like, I've been door knocking and I just haven't gotten anything. And so I'm like, well, what's your script? And same thing. I said, well, you're not asking for the sale. So the next time, it was like a couple weeks later, I saw her at the office. She's like, Janine, I have to tell you what happened. She was door knocking and was talking to this lady at the door. She said, we were talking for like 15 minutes, had this amazing conversation. And she said, in my mind, I'm like, okay, if she ever needed to sell, she would totally call me. And she was getting ready to leave. And she said, I stopped and I realized like I never asked her. And she felt kind of silly because she's like, oh, I just had a 15-minute call with her or conversation with her. If she was wanting to sell, she obviously would have told me, right? And she's like, but I knew you said I had to ask. So I turned around and I said, by the way, do you have any plans on making a move? And the lady said, actually, I do. And she's like, I was on my way out, had I not. And she ended up listing. And I still am in touch with her. And she's like, that's one of my best clients. And it was simply from that. So powerful.
I love that. That is awesome.
Ask, right?
Yeah, just ask.
You
never know.
You never know. And again, people just don't know what they don't know. And she had a great conversation. That lady never thought to tell her, right? It wasn't until she asked for it. That's good. Okay, so you go from a call center selling storage units. Now, how do you get to where you are today?
So, hell, that's a good question.
And by the way, I love, because you said this and we kind of like breezed over it. Like you went through a hard time. So many successful people go through really hard times. And it's in those hard times that we learn really valuable life lessons that teach us. Maybe it's grit, maybe it's a financial decision, whatever. So I would say to anybody listening again, like embrace those hard times and look at it as to what is this going to teach me? What am I going to learn? Because any successful person has gone through several hard times. So
yeah, that's 100% true. In my career, I went from, being in new home sales. I got into it right out of college. I was the #1 salesperson my first year. And then, you do that for a couple of years, you have, a lot of success, and then the market falls out from under you and you have to figure out a way to make ends meet. And when I went to work at this call center, one of the best things about it was all the calls were recorded. So you really got a chance to listen to yourself and hear what you're saying. A lot of times we talk and, we think one thing comes out of our mouth and really we're saying something else, or it's interpreted in a different way. So to really be able to hear what you're saying and how it's being perceived from the person on the other end was super valuable. So that's truly the best sales lesson I ever got, was being able to listen to myself. And you always hear sales coaches say, record yourself, and go back and listen to it. Does anybody ever do it? Most people don't.
They should.
But, being able to do that, I was able to understand what I was doing and what, what worked and what didn't, and so I was able to take that and get back into new home sales. I said, all right, as soon as the market gets a little bit better and it makes more sense to do this again, I'm going to get back in and I'm going to take the things that I learned in the call center and bring those back into new home sales. And I did that. I ended up working for a small builder that did retirement communities. I was able to work on site, where I could listen to the salespeople talking to customers and help them identify where they could improve their process. Had some really great success there, was able to move over to a much larger builder that did similar things, retirement, first-time buyers and move-up buyers. Spent the better part of 8 years there. And then I just moved over to where I'm at now, which is DR Horton. And I'm the vice president of sales for the East Valley. So I cover everything from Maricopa, Casa Grande, Florence, and Apache Junction is now a big place where we're building.
I know Apache Junction is really growing. There's some beautiful communities going in out there. So how many different home locations is that?
So we have 13 locations. And we really like to look at it in terms of how many product lines do we have. So we have 26 product lines that are out there. So if you go into one of our communities, a lot of times we'll have kind of a smaller line, and then we'll have a move up line that's a little bit larger. So 13 locations with 26 products.
Okay. Can you talk to us, because DR Horton does something that's slightly unique, to a little different than some of other builders out there. Can you talk to us about that?
You bet. So our focus is affordability. There's a huge need for affordability. Whether it's today with higher interest rates and higher prices, or 20 years ago when prices were lower and interest rates were, about the same as what they are today, really. But affordability is so challenging. So what we do is we say, how can we value engineer our homes to make it affordable for, everyday people to afford a home? And so we look at the things that we can put into the homes that people need to go ahead and live their life and do it as affordably as possible. So what's really unique about us is whenever you walk into one of our models, for the most part, what you see is what you get. There's not a lot of guesswork. I've worked for builders that put $150,000 in options and upgrades into their homes. And that's awesome for certain buyers. For our buyers who maybe they're first-time buyers, they don't know really what the process is like. It's a really great intro to buying a home, because you walk through the model. What you see in there is what you're going to get. You don't have to think about, am I going to go to a design center and spend $20,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 more? You know exactly what you're going to get on day one. The other unique thing that we do is we have inventory that's available all the time. We are constantly starting homes that don't have buyers, because a lot of our buyers are coming from rentals. Their leases are expiring in 30 to 60 days, and they need something to move into now. They can't wait 9 months or a year. So we always have something that's going to be done that's going to meet the end of their lease time frame. And if they want something that's a little bit further out, we can help them with that too. But having something they can move into right away is great. And I'll say the third great thing that we do is we always, we work with our in-house lender to buy down interest rates. What we can do is we pre-buy loan packages and we prepay interest on them to get buyers a lower interest rate to make their monthly payment more affordable.
Gosh, in this market, that is so valuable because that interest rate can really make a big difference on your monthly payment. And so that's huge. And especially for like a first-time home buyer, there's just not a lot of options out there for them in the East Valley. It's a fact. So having those options for them where they can get into home ownership. Somebody asked me this a question recently and was like, what's the best thing that you would say to somebody that's looking to get in the market? Just get in, right?
Something.
Just do something and then you can start to build wealth that way. So I love that. You guys also do, like, they're really nice. They're really up, like, I don't want to say up to date or modern, but like contemporary finishes where it's not like you're getting,
Base everything.
right. Like you're getting a really nice home product. And then the communities that you guys are building in are beautiful too. So that always helps.
Yeah.
We went to Magna Ranch and was it $7 million community center and pool area? It's amazing.
Yeah, the amenity center is great. You're talking about the pool. There's a clubhouse. If you want to host an event, maybe a big birthday party for your kids. Yeah. It's a destination where you can go to and have a great time with your whole family. We also have another community called Radiance, which is right off of Ironwood and Ray. And that amenity center is getting ready to open up probably the middle of November, and that's also going to be really nice. It's got a great pool, great community center. Clubhouse for your family and friends to come over to. So, you talk about the amenities, those are awesome. And then, back to your point about what we put in the homes is we're constantly meeting with design teams and our purchasing teams to say, what are the latest and greatest things in the design trends? Mm-hmm. And then how can we go out and buy those in bulk, get them for less, and then sell them for less to as many people as possible.
I love that. So in looking at the various communities that you guys are building in, where can somebody find like the best price out of all of those communities? Where would they go?
If they were going to find the best price, they would go to a community called Western Crossing, which is in Florence. It is, we have, what's the best way to say this? Our target audience out there is going to be somebody who, doesn't want to be, close to all the amenities. They don't like the hustle and bustle. Maybe they work somewhere in central Arizona. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a mine. Maybe they work, in one of the prisons, or they support that area. Mm-hmm. That's going to be who the buyer profile is over there.
Okay.
We also have communities out in Maricopa. We have Casa Grande, Florence, Santan Valley, and Apache Junction. The people that work or live in Apache Junction. What's really nice is having the 24 that has unlocked so many opportunities for people to get to their jobs in the East Valley. Yeah,
that's amazing how much it's shortened that commute to getting out there. Yeah. When you take all of those communities, where would somebody, because like Casa Grande, I feel like all of these communities, they're really growing. It's kind of where there's so much here, like in Gilbert and Chandler, there's not a ton of open areas that you can build in, but those are areas that are really booming and growing. And I always think it's good for somebody to get in early before it's like totally built out, right? And kind of grow. That's what I did when I moved here to Gilbert. This whole area was just dirt. Yeah. And so getting in, and then you can see it grow and develop. And it's just all those areas that you said, I just feel like that's where the growth is going. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it grows out a couple miles every year. This is a crazy story. My dad, he was in home building. And we moved out here in 1984.
Okay, from where?
We moved out here from Texas.
Okay.
And so my dad's job was to get the home builder up and running out here. And we bought a house at Warner and McClintock.
Okay.
And McClintock Road south of Ray was dirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can believe that,
yeah.
I mean, and now you look at the homes and, it's
totally.
Yeah, it's not new anymore.
Yeah, yeah. When we moved here, the 202 freeway wasn't even finished being built. Yeah. So we had to take this anyways. Yeah. So it's been fun to see that. What would you say to somebody that is thinking, should I buy resale? Should I buy a brand new home? What are some of the advantages and maybe even just to be honest, disadvantages? What would you say?
Yeah. There's a lot of advantages or disadvantages either way. For the person that wants to buy an existing home, there might be features in that home that the buyer says, hey, I really like this. I can move into it right away. Maybe it has a pool. It's got existing landscaping. Those are all great reasons why you could buy a resale. The location might be closer into town. That's an advantage. It might come with a little bit higher price depending on where the home is. But the people that buy new homes, they want to move into something that's a clean slate. It's kind of like buying a new car. You get that new car smell. When you move into the new home,
yes.
Everything's perfect. The windows are clean. You don't have dust on them. You get to, in a lot of cases, you get to pick out your own features. You get to customize your own landscaping. When you buy from a builder, you're going to have closing costs. A lot of times the builder will help with closing costs provided you're using their lender. So, there's a ton of great opportunities, for people that want new and they just want that fresh slate.
Yeah. A new air conditioner and new roof.
You don't have to worry about those two
That's
things.
huge.
Warranty.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially here in Arizona where ACs and roofs and all of that. I mean, just as the heat just beats these things up, time and all of that. So getting something new where you don't have to worry about those potential maintenance costs for a long time is really super valuable.
Totally agree.
Okay. So can we talk about, cause this is something that we run into all the time. I know you probably know what I'm going to say. We have clients that are like, I'm just going to pop in to the builder. I'm out and about. We had one where their kid was playing a soccer game, and in between games, they were like, oh, let's just pop into the builder, not thinking that they were even thinking of moving. But you guys can you tell us what your policy is when it comes to realtor representation?
Yeah, you bet. So, we allow buyers to be represented by their realtor. If a buyer has a realtor, we will pay their realtor provided that they come into the community with them on the first visit. Now you have those situations, they're out in the neighborhood, their friend lives down the street and they're like, hey, our realtor told us not to come in. And it's okay. Tell us up front, please, that you have a realtor. The way that I've worked with my sales team is I know that happens. It's real life.
Yes.
And as long as people tell us up front, what we want to do is we want to say, hey, we'll take down the realtor's name, write it down on the card, give the realtor a call and say, hey, you got a client on the loose. Come wrangle them up.
Bring them in. Yes, I appreciate that.
We have a good relationship with the realtor community and we want to continue that. And so, we want to help them out, as long as they tell us up front.
Yes.
If we get a visit or two in and it comes up later, it makes it a little bit harder
tough,
for us to pay.
Yeah.
But we definitely are friendly with the realtor community.
We appreciate that. There are some builders who are not. And so we appreciate that because to us, it is really important, and we can tell our clients till they're blue in the face, and yet they still just sometimes do their own thing. And you're like, I told you.
Yeah. That one she's talking about, they were literally just killing time. Didn't realize they even signed anything. 6-8 months later, we have a conversation. They're thinking about moving into this community where I live, so I know all about it. And we're selling their house, and sure enough, they'd already been there. But luckily, they didn't go to the other collection where they ended up buying, so we were able to help them out. But
so yes, anybody potentially listening and thinking, just always be upfront and honest. Yeah, and even call your realtor. Hey, I'm here. Is it okay if I go in? Sometimes we can call. We can come back later and register them. There are options, but just keep that line of communication open. So we appreciate that. What else would you say are some good, especially if you're looking as a first-time home buyer, what are some things that you would say, hey, you should think about this to prepare for that purchase?
Yeah, the things you want to think about are, your down payment. Where's that going to come from? If you have it saved up, awesome. Are you going to get it from a family member? That's great too. I think having your down payment ready to go, planning out when you're going to move into your home. If you're thinking, hey, I want a home 9 months, 12 months down the road, that's great. There's builders out there that have homes that are going to take 9 to 12 months to build. If you need something in 60 days, still stop into a builder and talk to them because they might have inventory.
Yes.
It may not be the exact features that you're looking for, but you're going to get pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Because what we try to do whenever we build our inventory is pick out what we think the mass amount of people in the population will want to buy.
Yeah.
We don't go and pick obscure things.
Right.
We try to appeal to the masses.
That is something I think with specs is the builders tend to, as long as the builders have done it, right, tend to pick things that are going to appeal to the masses, which is nice about your product is it's just already done for you, which I think is so valuable because as a buyer, especially a first-time buyer, you don't know what you don't know. And I look at the first home I built and then the next one and the next one, every time I got better, right? More like, okay, this is important to me or this is important to me. When you're first doing it, you don't know. So having a product that's already there for you that has all those things that you don't even know you would need or want could be really valuable.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. You know, the other thing about it is a lot of builders have partnerships with lenders.
Yes,
Find out
good
what find out what incentives they're offering to use their lender. A lot of people will get pre-qualified with somebody and they'll, they just want to know what they can afford. What's my payment going to be? It's good to have that information in hand. It's also good to find out what the builder's lender partner has. They may have something that's better. They may not. But you want to ask that question to find out, hey, which one should I go with? And ultimately, you want to get the best deal for yourself.
Yes.
So ask all those questions, shop it around, and figure out make sure you're getting the best deal for yourself.
Yeah, and usually those lenders for the builder have additional incentives that just make it so nice to go through. So you guys have one as well, right?
We do, yeah. So we have DHI Mortgage. It's a company that D.R. Horton owns. And what we do is we provide money towards closing costs to try and help pay for a majority of the closing costs that you're going to experience. In addition to that, we pre-buy a large bulk of loans at lower interest rates so we can offer them to the general public at lower rates than XYZ lender out there.
Which is huge and a really big advantage for new construction right now because of where rates are, higher for resale homes. The seller can't really compete with that like a builder can. So that's why a lot of people are going new build right now.
Yeah, and it's really expensive for the builder to do. What people don't see is how much the builder pays on the back end. It can cost $10,000 to $20,000 for us on the back end that people don't know about. And really where that's advantageous is we've looked at it and said, can we lower the price $20,000 or can we prepay $20,000 in interest? What's going to get that buyer the lowest payment? And currently, if we put more money towards the interest rate, it will get buyers that lower monthly payment. And with the way prices are on groceries and gas, monthly payment's a big deal to people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have a question. This is a question that it can be floated around out there where a buyer will think, if I don't have a realtor representing me, do I get a better deal on my house?
The answer is no. So what we do, I'm going to speak for ourselves, for D.R. Horton. I'm also going to talk about some experiences that I've had with other builders. I don't want to speak for everybody, but in general, what we do is we have a general idea of how many buyers are going to have realtors and how many aren't. There's a percentage, and it's pretty similar across most builders. And think of the realtor is we're paying them to get the customer into the community for the first time, and so we build that into the price. So whether you have a realtor or not, you're going to get the same deal. Yes. We can't go out and say, hey, because you don't have a realtor, we're going to pay you or we're going to give you a better deal.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same deal whether you have one or not.
Yeah.
And it essentially comes from a marketing budget, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah. Love it.
That's good.
Awesome. So you've been doing this a little while, and I bet there's some really good life lessons that you've learned along the way. What would you say? Because there's a lot of people that are listening that aren't thinking about buying or selling or moving into a new home, but they're just listening because they like learning things about life and business and leadership. So what are some of those life lessons that you've learned that have kind of guided you to where you are today?
Yeah, the life lessons that I've found that's been really successful, not just for me, but for a lot of the people that I've sold homes to, is buy a home that you can afford.
Yes.
The people that overextended themselves during the Great Recession, found themselves in some troubling times, and stick within your means and your budget, and if you do that, you'll be okay.
Yes.
For the people that overextend, it gets painful and can cause all sorts of issues.
Yes.
So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that I found. And, for the salespeople out there, if you're listening to this as a salesperson, save your money.
Yes.
You might have one really great month, or you might have 3 really great months.
Yes.
Put money away.
Yes.
And, save it for a rainy day, because there's going to be a time where that rainy day is a little heavier than others. And you need to have that money stashed away. And
Well,
could be a rainy month.
yeah.
Well, and I think to that point, a lot of people right now, credit card usage is at an all-time high. We have, I think it's like 1.29 trillion in debt on credit cards, which is just insane. And it's because people have with the cost of everything getting more expensive, right? Groceries, gas, you name it, it's more expensive. They haven't adjusted their lifestyle for that. So they're continuing to go out to eat or whatever it is that they're doing. And so they're just putting it on a credit card, hoping maybe someone will come save them. Nobody is going to come save you. You got to do it for yourself. So make those adjustments. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What else?
That's the biggest one that I can think of.
Awesome.
I was prepared really to talk a lot about real estate.
No,
Life
you're good.
lessons is that's a different one that I really hadn't planned on.
I think that's really good. I think people tend to overextend themselves, and then it catches up to them, and that's never a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, what didn't we ask you that we should have asked you?
I think you asked a lot of the
Covered
really
all?
good questions. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being with us. We like to end with a little speed round.
Yeah.
Are you up for some rapid fire
Sure.
questions? Okay. First one, what's your favorite color?
Blue.
We'll start off easy. Okay. Favorite food?
Steak
Ooh, love a good steak.
with a twice baked potato.
Oh, love that. Okay. I'm getting hungry. A favorite drink?
Lately, this is going to sound crazy, I like the Athletic non-alcoholic beer.
Okay.
What's
athletic non-alcoholic beer?
So it's Athletic Brewing Company.
Okay.
And they make this non-alcoholic beer. And long story, I've been running and cycling. I've done some triathlons in the last couple of years. And my friends that I do that with in their training, they're like, hey, try this. It tastes similar enough to beer, but it doesn't have the alcohol in it. And you perform better. And
Interesting.
I cut alcohol out of my life for a little while.
Yeah.
While I was training for something, and it was amazing what it did to my heart rate. And so now I like that. It's kind of my go-to thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
something you didn't think you were going to learn about.
I
today,
know.
right?
I'm going to make sure I tell my husband. Okay. Do you have a favorite sound?
When people say yes, I want to buy a house.
Cha-ching.
right?
Right?
Ching. Yeah.
What about a favorite book?
Gosh, a favorite book. There is a book that I was reading about 6 months ago, and it's, what is it called? It talks about habits and being relentless about your habits, and
Like Atomic Habits?
it's not that one. It's
Okay.
I know.
That's all right.
I'll think about it as soon as I'm
As
driving
soon as
away here.
you
Yeah.
leave. Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
come to you.
Habits.
Yeah. It has something to do with habits.
Okay.
And it's the guy that wrote 75 Hard is the guy that wrote this book. Anyways,
Frizella?
what's that? Yes. Yeah. It just talks about being relentless in the things that you do.
Okay. Awesome.
What about a favorite podcast? Do you listen to podcasts?
So I don't listen to podcasts. I've Bert Kreischer. You guys know who he is. He's a stand-up comedian.
Okay.
So if you're listening to this, or you guys, his whole stand-up comedy act is him basically going out on stage, and he's like the ultimate bro with the dad bod. He's a bigger guy, and he takes his shirt off and he swings it around.
funny.
He's got a podcast, and he'll have different comedians on there. So
love it.
I'll watch the reels on Saturday morning sometimes when I'm laying in bed. But it's basically him on a podcast, like him and his buddies telling jokes. So
Talking. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good time.
I honestly didn't listen to podcasts much before we started this. I do more now, but it's mostly reels because I want the snippets.
yeah.
Yeah, the quick little
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Do you have a favorite vacation?
Yes. So my family and I, we like to go to Mission Beach every summer.
Yes.
For many, many years, we rented the same house, and
That's cool.
It's just kind of that long-lasting memory
I
of.
love that.
You see your kids at the same beach, and you see it year after year after year, and you see them growing up, and that's been awesome to be able to do every year.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Well, thank you for being with us and sharing with us, and we appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would like and subscribe and follow us for more podcasts. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. That was fun.
Thanks for listening to The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the Home Selling Team on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay up to date with our podcast.